Ladies and gentlemen, the following segment of the podcast is presented exclusively by the Heritage Foundation. For 52 years, Heritage has fought tirelessly for America's founding principles and advancing conservative public policies. Much more than a think tank, Heritage is a conservative policy powerhouse, fighting for the everyday American to advance common sense policies and dismantle the D.C. bureaucracy. Our founding fathers gave us an extraordinary system of government, and the Heritage Foundation is dedicated to defending the heritage and carrying on their legacy for future generations. So get involved by completing their national survey on President Trump's agenda by visiting heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Great Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
America, Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I have to say, you're watching Genius. No, not me. I'm talking about the president. And so a few hours ago, he says, you know what, I'm going to put a 90-day hold on these tariffs. I'll just leave them at a 10% baseline, except for Communist China. Communist China's now slapped another 84% tariff on us. I will slap another 125% on them. He has effectively isolated Communist China from the rest of the world and, of course, from us. At the same time, he says, I know Xi, I get along with him, he's a very smart guy, so forth and so on. I mean, this man really is a brilliant, more than deal maker, strategist. And so basically you have now, and the Democrats are taking credit for this pullback, but of course they take credit for everything. They've been so helpful, haven't they? What exactly have they done? What have they done? On their watch, this was all perfectly fine. So what did Trump do? He's changed everything in a period of a week. In a period of a week, he's changed everything. We now have countries, told over 70, maybe over 100, but definitely over 70, who've come to the United States and have said, we want to do trade deals with you, tariff deals with you. We agree. We want them to be more fair, more equitable. It would never have happened. Period. Never have happened. And these tariffs have been in place, what, 14 minutes? But you get my point. A very truncated, very short period of time. And he forced all these countries to come, and he even said during his press conference today, he said, we need the 90 days to deal with all these countries coming to us so we can make some smart deals. They won't all be the same. And we not only want to get this tariff thing more equitable, but we want to get our balance of trade back in order. And so a 90-day freeze at 10%, except for China, which he whacks with 125%. Now, China can keep playing this game. The truth is, their economy is about two-thirds the size of our economy. Their economy relies heavily on exports. Ours does not rely heavily on exports. And he's got a plan to grow the economy, and we're going to get into that more in a moment as well. So these tariffs haven't even been in place that long. And he's pulled them back. 10% across the board minimum is what he's put in place as we negotiate with these other countries that have very high tariffs on us. The Democrats never squealed a word about the tariffs that foreign countries have placed on us. I mentioned this the other day, and now the conga line of plagiarists, verbal plagiarists, are out there repeating it. But it's true. They still don't really talk about it. We talk about it. President Trump talks about it. Now, I understand that China, I think I heard some experts say today, or I read today, really about 20% of their economy is linked to ours. That doesn't even make any sense. How do you even know that? We have vibrant economic activity, including trade, exports, imports, but the whole world. So if we decide to do something, it's not just a matter of how it affects China directly. It can affect China indirectly. That's the nature of economics. The point is, China can't win that battle. It cannot win the battle against the United States economically. And I feel that Donald Trump saw what Reagan did to the Soviet Union. Maybe I'm overstating it, but I don't think so. He's got a portrait of Reagan hanging in the Oval Office. I know he thinks about him, not because he slobbers all over the portrait, because he sees he was an incredibly successful president. There are others he likes. He likes Andrew Jackson. He likes William McKinley. But Reagan. And he's trying to slash taxes significantly. And he wants that bill passed, and he talks about it. And we'll get into that, too. We have the clip of him telling that to the National Republican Congressional Committee and their members and their donors. But what's happened today is really remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. And Schumer's here, dobbling up and down, taking credit for it. He blinked. It's because, and then he blinked. Nobody blinks at Schumer. Nobody. I mean, AOC's thinking about running against him. I suspect she will in the Democrat primary. It's not blinking. Maybe they have something in their eye, but they're not blinking over him. I can promise you that. We Democrats, we succeeded. You succeeded at what? He's going to get these other countries to reduce their tariffs. He's going to get a more level playing field so we can actually have a really significant free market. He's going to help create wealth in this country. Every single Democrat, maybe one, but I doubt it, every single Democrat will vote against his tax package, as they all voted against his budget package. And then they'll take credit for any of the benefits that take place, right? That's what they do. Because they're disgusting. But it's a big day, what he did. Here he was outside the White House today. Let's get cut one ready, please. And this is this morning. Cut one, go.
Just a few hours later, there was a pause put in on the tariffs. Can you walk us through your thinking about why you decided to put a 90-day pause?
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions. Because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did. No other president. I know the presidents. They wouldn't have done it. And it had to be done. What was happening to us on trade, not only with, if you look at it, not only with China, but China was by far the biggest abuser in history, and others also. But somebody had to do it. They had to stop because it was not sustainable. Last year, China made $1 trillion off trade with the United States. That's not right. And now I've reversed it. It's for a short period of time, but we made $2 billion. We're making now $2 billion a day. And somebody had to do it. Roger actually said it. Charles Schwab was here a little while ago, one of the great financial people, and he said he's been waiting for 40 years for somebody to do what I did over the last month. And if you didn't do it, you wouldn't have a country. It wouldn't be sustainable. So I'm honored to have done it. And, look, nothing's over yet, but we have a tremendous amount of spirit from other countries, including China. China wants to make a deal. They just don't know how quite to go about it. It's one of those things they don't know how quite. They're proud people. And President Xi's a proud man. I know him very well, and they don't know quite how to go about it, but they'll figure it out. They're in the process of figuring it out, but they want to make a deal. And we have many other countries, as you know, many more than 75, and they all want to come. And they want to come here, or they'll go to Commerce, or they'll go to Treasury. We have our great senators here and congressmen. They'll call John, they'll do somebody, they'll go through somebody, but they're all calling, how do we do this? They all want to make a deal. Somebody had to do what we did, and I did a 90-day pause for the people that didn't retaliate, because I told them, if you retaliate, we're going to double it. And that's what I did with China, because they did retaliate.
And that's going to hurt China, because their economy is already hurting. And that's fine by me. When you use economics rather than bullets, it's a good thing. And Reagan showed the way. Trump is now showing the way. I think it would be well for people, our friends at National Review, the Wall Street Journal editorial page, but not just them, others, to actually try and comprehend what the guy's doing, rather than fall back on shibboleths and knee-jerk reactions. Because I'm trying to understand it, and as I think it through, a lot of this makes sense to me. It just does. And the hollowing out of our industrial sector needs to be turned around for national security reasons at a minimum. We can't build ships anymore. We build 10 ships a year. 10. 10. The communist Chinese are building 1,000 ships a year. 1,000. We're building 10. We have on order 10 new naval ships, only 4 of which can actually be built in a period of a year or two. Our naval yards are shut down. The Philadelphia Naval Yard, I grew up in Philadelphia, one of the great naval yards. It doesn't do anything anymore. And all those men and women who were so trained, I mean, it's tough to build a ship. It's not so simple. Well, people have to be retrained now. They're not around anymore. And so these things have to be done. It's unfortunate. I think people are going to look back on this and be really amazed that you lived through this era, that you lived through this period. The big difference between the 1930s and now, and I say this to all my friends out there, is Donald Trump's not a socialist. Franklin Roosevelt was. So while tariffs were in place, and they were put in place by Republicans, Coolidge, Hoover, while they were in place, the fact is the Depression was caused, as Milton Friedman has said, by monetary policy that tightened the dollar, the availability of the dollar by a third, contracted the availability of money by 1/3. So they took a recession and turned it into a depression. And on top of that, it lasted 10 years because FDR was a socialist. He massively raised taxes. The highest rate was 90%, for crying out loud. He was redistributing wealth. He was trying to change our constitutional construct, and he succeeded in many respects. Trump's not a socialist. He's a capitalist. A businessman who built things. He didn't just move money around like Soros. He actually built things. He developed things. He created things. So he wants a massive tax cut, massive regulatory cuts, slash the size of the federal government, slash the bloat in the bureaucracy, so that he has a massive growth agenda on top of this tariff effort, in which, as of tonight, shows absolute genius. Now, this thing has to play out. We all know that. But as of tonight, absolute genius. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Listen, folks, if you're like me, you're passionate about protecting our American values. That's why I trust the Heritage Foundation. They're dedicated to promoting policies based on free enterprise, limited government, and traditional American values. The Heritage Foundation does more than just produce policy recommendations. They're mobilizing conservatives across the country. And right now, they need you to take action by completing their national survey on President Trump's agenda. Your responses to this survey will help guide Heritage leadership as they work closely with folks in Washington to promote your values, secure America's borders, and restore our freedoms. Here's what I want you to do. Visit heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin to complete your survey. It's very, very important. My friends at Heritage need you to act now to help them maximize the impact on President Trump's first 100 days. Heritage is committed to preserving our founding fathers' principles and ensuring that America remains a beacon of freedom and opportunity. So I know you won't sit on the sidelines. You'll get involved, please, today, and make your voice heard. Visit heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/Levin. Please complete your survey today. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Great Heritage Foundation. At this National Republican Congressional Committee dinner, which raises money for House candidates. And he wants his tax cuts, number 18. He wants those tax cuts. And it's got to get done. As I've been saying on Fox and behind this microphone, it is crucial that these tax cuts be implemented, and soon, for the sake of the country, his presidency, and the Republicans in the House and the Senate. Cut 18, go.
If we slash taxes on American workers and producers, our economy will soar, jobs will surge, manufacturing will boom, and our country will prosper like never, ever before. We got to get this big, beautiful deal done. We got to get it done, and get it done now. Don't wait 2 weeks. Don't wait 2 weeks. See, bad things happen. Crazy things happen in politics. Just get the damn thing done and stop showboating.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of people want to, sure, we got to get a little bit more. A little bit more, you know what you're going to get? You end up getting nothing. You end up getting a Democrat bill or worse.
He's right. Let's go. Get it done. And the sooner the better. It'll have an effect on the economy. It takes time for these things to kick in. Look, the economy is massive, and we have 320 million people. So it takes time for something like this to resonate through the economy. So people, the end users, you and me, you feel it. So you feel it. And so, I mean, everybody talks about, look at the stock market when it was down. Look at the stock market, it's up. I don't look at the stock market. I just don't. In fact, most of my pension money is not even in the stock market. You know, you reach a point at which, okay, I've had it in and out of the stock market for 30, 40 years. That's enough already. So I put it in more protected areas. But so what? My point is, okay, look at the stock market. Slash taxes. You want to see the stock market pop? Okay, the stock market will pop. But, you know, that as important as the stock market is, that you have men and women who go to work every single day, driving trucks, in construction, farmers, ranchers, people working on assembly lines. The stock market doesn't have a hell of a lot to do with them. Maybe they have a 401k or an IRA. But their everyday life is not affected by the stock market. Their everyday life is affected by the here and now. Not what happens when you retire. You got a long life to live before you retire. You got a family to take care of. These are your earning years, as we call them. And so, slash the damn taxes. Grow the economy. How many more examples do we need? You had Kennedy, you had Reagan, you had Trump in his first term. Slash them. You want to be competitive? Slash them. The Democrats don't want to cut taxes. They want to cut regulations. They want to cut government. They don't want to cut government personnel. They don't want to really take on the world when it comes to the way they apply tariffs to you. And then they go around wringing their hands. We're going to be in a recession, and Trump doesn't know what he's doing, and on and on and on, as they embrace Marxism, Islamism. All right, tons more. I'll be right back. Folks, I need to talk to you about something crucial to the future of America. Our friends at the Heritage Foundation are on the front lines fighting for our conservative values. Heritage is dedicated to promoting policies that will help bolster our economy, protect our borders, and uphold the rule of law. They're working tirelessly to defend our Constitution and the principles that make America exceptional. To help accomplish this, they need you to complete their national survey on President Trump's agenda today. So you can participate in this survey by going to heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/Levin. Your responses are crucial to this survey, and they'll provide Heritage leadership with crucial feedback as they work closely with the folks in Washington to promote your values, secure America's borders, and restore our freedoms. By completing this very important survey today, you're standing up for the values that have made this country great. And my friends at Heritage need you to act now to maximize their impact on President Trump's first 100 days. So please don't wait. Our future depends on you. Together, we can make a difference, and future generations inherit a nation that is free, prosperous, and strong. So please, right now, visit heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, complete your survey, and join the fight for America's future. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Great Heritage Foundation. Last night, the president, responding to the people telling him that he doesn't know what he's doing. Cut 19, go.
But the same people now telling me about how to deal with China are the ones who sold out America for decades to China. For decades, they gave up to China. I'm the only one that China... You know how much? China's paid almost $700 billion in tariffs under me. And then they say, Donald Trump hasn't been tough on China.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, let's go, Mr. Producer. Cut 20, go.
This is bigger than any deal. You guys, some of you work for companies. Your companies are peanuts. I don't care how big they are. This is the largest transaction in the history of our country. And don't let some of these politicians go around saying, because I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir. And then I'll see some rebel Republican, some guy that wants to grandstand, say, I think that Congress should take over negotiations. Let me tell you, you don't negotiate like I negotiate. Congress takes over negotiating. Sell America fast because you're going to go busted. You don't. I just saw it today. A couple of your congressmen said, I think we should get involved in the negotiation of the tariff. So that's what I need. I need some guy telling me how to negotiate.
Yeah. Schumer says Congress needs to take it back. Do you want Schumer in charge of tariffs, or do you want Trump in charge of tariffs? I mean, Schumer could have done something before. He didn't do anything. President Trump posted this earlier. Based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets, I'm hereby raising the tariff charged to China by the United States of America to 125%, effective immediately. At some point, hopefully, in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the U.S. and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, and based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States, including the Department of Commerce, Treasury, the USTR, to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, and that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the United States, I have authorized a 90-day pause and he substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, keep in mind, a reciprocal tariff of 10%, and some of these countries are charging us far more than 10%, so he's saying, okay. And he also said later, hey, we need the 90 days to negotiate with each one of these countries, and that's what we'll do. None of this would be going on but for him. Can they at least admit that at the Wall Street Journal? Can they at least admit that at National Review? Can they at least admit that? Well, the Democrats won't admit anything because they are mentally deranged no matter what. They're mentally deranged no matter what. And that is the truth. 90-day pause, reciprocal 10%. It's not It's not that reciprocal because I said some of these other countries have it at a much higher, much higher level. Stock markets, well, the stock markets surged. It's the highest increase in the stock market, the main stock market, the Dow Jones, ever in one day. Ever in one day. Three major indexes jumped by over 7%. The Dow Jones and S&P 500 saw their biggest gains in 5 years. The tech-oriented NASDAQ jumped over 10%. So you happy on Wall Street? Because, you know, we all exist for you, after all. Wall Street had been reeling since last week when Trump announced a dramatic tariff package. Many predicted Trump's tariffs would immediately cause a significant uptick to consumer prices and reduce economic growth. But you see what he's done here. You see what he's done here. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Now, this guy's a pretty sharp dude. And I think they've decided that he should speak for the cabinet rather than every member of the cabinet speaking about these tariffs. And by the way, we're not going to spend the whole show on this, but this is very important. What's taking place in front of you truly is history. It's economic history. It'll affect everybody's life in this country. Let's get cut 4 ready, please, and the subsequent cuts, too. Here he says, outside the White House today, every country wants to talk to us. Cut 4, go.
And we saw the successful negotiating strategy that President Trump implemented a week ago today. It has brought more than 75 countries forward to negotiate. It took great courage for him to stay the course until this moment. And what we have ended up with here, as I told everyone a week ago, in this very spot, do not retaliate and you will be rewarded. So every country in the world who wants to come and negotiate, we are willing to hear you. We're going to go down to a 10% baseline tariff for them, and China will be raised to 125 due to their insistence on escalation.
Cut 5, go.
In terms of certainty, we will see what China does, but what I am certain of is that what China is doing will affect their economy much more than it will ours, because they have an export-driven, flood the world with cheap export models, and the rest of the world now understands, because when we put up our tariff wall, those exports were already flowing to the rest of the G7 and to the global South.
And Mr. Secretary, how much of this decision was driven by the bond market cratering overnight? What is happening with bonds? Is China selling their bonds?
I have nothing that says that, and we actually had quite a good 10-year auction today, and all this was, again, this was driven by the president's strategy. He and I had a long talk on Sunday, and this was his strategy all along, and that, you might even say that he goaded China into a bad position. They responded. They have shown themselves to the world to be the bad actors, and we are willing to cooperate with our allies and with our trading partners who did not retaliate. It wasn't a hard message. Don't retaliate. Things will turn out well.
Okay. And again, you have to keep something in mind. In every one of these cases, their tariffs are higher than ours, applied against us and our goods. Then finally, cut 6. Go.
I think it's unfortunate that the Chinese actually don't want to come and negotiate, because they are the worst offenders in the international trading system. They have the most imbalanced economy in the history of the modern world. And I can tell you that this escalation is a loser for them. That they have some very smart, the economists, the academicians, technocrats within their bureaucracy, and they would be telling the leadership that we do not have the edge here. They are the surplus country, that their exports to the U.S. are 5 times our exports to China. So they can raise their tariffs, but so what?
So what is right. Now, some industries will be affected. Pharmaceuticals is one of them, so we need to be very mindful of that, of course. But fact of the matter is, look, at some point this had to come to a head, didn't it? At some point it had to come to a head, so it did. And luckily, Trump is in place to deal with it because he knows how to deal with these sorts of things. He's experienced these sorts of things before. Now, let's see. China had hit us with another 84%, and that's why Trump hit them with 125%. Said, okay, we can keep this up. But I think it really does harm China in a significant way. You know, you get when you watch TV, you listen to some of these people, so-called experts. I heard one, as I mentioned earlier at the top of the hour, talk about, well, we're only 20% of the Chinese economy. Well, that's a big piece. Then you hear others say that, this will be a massive impact on them and us and so forth and so on. It's like all these other countries. All they have to do is pull back, is what Trump's saying. All you have to do is pull back. Canada, you got 250% tariff on our, on some of our dairy products. Pull back. Or Mexico, you're not securing our border to prevent fentanyl from coming into our country and killing people. Do something about it. The European Union hit a bunch of our businesses today. We'll see how that turns out, what they do. But, the battle's on. And I don't view this as a tariff war. It's something different. You see, it's different than the 1930s. It's very different than the 1930s. I know people keep referring to the 1930s, but it's different. This isn't Franklin Roosevelt. It's Trump. Again, a capitalist, not a socialist. A Republican, not a Democrat. There are other aspects to this that are important, too. That is, the money supply. The money supply today is not tight. And the Fed is not tightening it and tightening it and tightening it. And yet that's what they did in 1929 to 1933. But they did it in 1929, 1930. They brought the whole system down. That's not what's happening today. The Fed's not doing that. The money supply is fairly vigorous. Interest rates are quite low. I think you can get a mortgage rate, for instance, 5.5%, 5.75%, somewhere in that ballpark. So the Fed is not reacting the same way. Trump is not doing what FDR did. So he wants slash taxes, so there's more money available in the private sector like Reagan did. Slash the size of government. Try and cut spending. Cut regulations so our industries can actually breathe. It's a whole pro-growth agenda that did not exist in the late 20s, early 30s, in the early 40s, but especially in the 30s, especially, I should say, after the election of Franklin Roosevelt. It was not a pro-growth agenda. It was a socialist redistribution of wealth agenda. So the environment's totally different. So, as I said on Fox, as I've said here behind the microphone earlier this week, we've never really seen this kind of environment, and we've never actually seen this kind of policy play out. We just haven't. And so far, so good. For the stock market folks out there, it's back up. And for the folks who are worried about tariffs, they're temporarily frozen, but for a de minimis 10%. And these foreign countries have an opportunity, if they want to be real trading partners with America, to level the playing field. When this is said and done, Donald Trump can go down as the biggest free market politician in American history. Seriously. Because isn't that what he's trying to do? Trying to save the market system? Many ways he is. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Listen, folks, if you're like me, you're passionate about protecting our American values. That's why I trust the Heritage Foundation. They're dedicated to promoting policies based on free enterprise, limited government, and traditional American values. The Heritage Foundation does more than just produce policy recommendations. They're mobilizing conservatives across the country. And right now, they need you to take action by completing their national survey on President Trump's agenda. Your responses to this survey will help guide Heritage leadership as they work closely with folks in Washington to promote your values, secure America's borders, and restore our freedoms. Here's what I want you to do. Visit heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin to complete your survey. It's very, very important. My friends at Heritage need you to act now to help them maximize the impact on President Trump's first 100 days. Heritage is committed to preserving our Founding Fathers' principles and ensuring that America remains a beacon of freedom and opportunity. So I know you won't sit on the sidelines. You'll get involved, please, today, and make your voice heard. Visit heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/Levin. Please complete your survey today. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Great Heritage Foundation. Lots of stuff going on out there, America. Stuff that it doesn't really fit into any category, but I love it. Do you know that we're working on something called the F-47 fighter jet? President Trump, I'm thrilled to announce that at my direction, the United States Air Force is moving forward with the world's first sixth-generation fighter jet. Now, he mentioned this a few weeks ago, but I never mentioned it. I should have. This is a big deal. This is a game changer. Boeing has been awarded the contract to produce the U.S. Air Force's next-generation fighter jet, the F-47. It's classified as the sixth-generation fighter. It's expected to be the most advanced fighter jet ever developed by any country. The president said, I'm thrilled to announce that in my direction, the United States Air Force is moving forward with the world's first sixth-generation fighter jet. Nothing in the world comes close to it. And the new name, F-47, reportedly acknowledged Trump's second term as the 47th president of the United States. Gotta love it. But they show a picture of this thing. It looks like a UFO. And I'm glad it needs to be done. We need to build our military back up. Despite what the isolationists among us say, of course, they're moronic. The president made some statements about Iran today, and I will play that for you, too. And I will play that for you because he's got a very smart sense of what's taking place in the Middle East and with Iran, and he cares about defending the American people, and he understands that if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, that they could destroy our country. We do not have a Iron Dome like the Israelis do. We won't catch all the nuclear missiles that are being fired into our country. Once you have the know-how to build one, you have the know-how to build 1,000,001. That's the problem. You can't undo the technology. You can't undo the knowledge. You know, in the 1980s, under Menachem Begin, the Prime Minister of Israel, they took out the nuclear site that was being built in Iraq. They didn't announce it to the world. They just did it. And, of course, our government was quite concerned about it, but then praised Israel for doing it, and Iraq never got a nuclear device. That's very important, don't you think? And in the case of Iran, Iran's worse than Iraq ever was. Now, when you have Islamo-Nazis who keep threatening to take out the United States of America, and they're perfecting, even before they have the nuclear warheads, their intercontinental ballistic missile. You don't need an intercontinental ballistic missile to hit Israel or any of your Arab neighbors. You need an intermediate missile to do that. They already have that. So they're trying to get these warheads built to threaten us. So we'll get back to that after the break. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Iran. Oh, Mark, we're so sick and tired of Iran. Well, you won't be sick and tired of it if we hit them and that becomes the big news. Plus, you in this audience, you're smart. You understand what we're talking about here. I want you to listen to what the President of the United States said today. He's signing executive orders, and he was asked about Iran. Come Saturday, I think this guy, Steve Witkoff, is the lead negotiator. I hope he knows what he's doing. Just saying. Time will tell. Maybe he does. That would be a great thing. But I take confidence in knowing that Donald Trump does know what he's doing. And he calls the shots, and he's the bottom line. So take a listen to this. Cut 5, Mr. Producer. Go.
In terms of certainty, we will see what China does, but what I am certain of,
No. Stop, please. Stop. It's Trump at the White House today. Do we not have that?
Do you want something definitive this weekend, or do you see this as the start of a process?
It's a start.
Do you have a timeline?
We have a little time, but we don't have much time.
Who is starting?
Because we're not going to let them have a nuclear weapon.
Is it going to be there, Mr. President?
And we're going to let them thrive. I want them to thrive. I want Iran to be great. The only thing they can't have is a nuclear weapon. They understand that. You know, the people are so incredible in Iran, and they're so smart. They're very smart people. But you know, they're in a rough situation, rough regime. But they understand, and the leaders understand. And I'm not asking for much. I don't. They can't have a nuclear weapon, and I've said that. And I was a little bit surprised because when the election was rigged, I figured they'd get the weapon because with me they were broke. They were broke. They had no money because of the sanctions. Nobody could buy oil. We did that to Venezuela just recently, and we'll do it to other countries if we have to. I want to see Russia and Ukraine make a deal. They got to make a deal. When schools get blown up and bad things happen, like I'm hearing about, it's no good. I hope we're going to make a deal with Russia and Ukraine. But with Iran, if it requires military, we're going to have military. Israel will obviously be very much involved in that. He'll be the leader of that. But nobody leads us. We do what we want to do.
When would the talks need to conclude before you might do military?
I can't really be specific, but you know, when you start talks, you know if they're going along well or not. And I would say the conclusion would be when I think they're not going along well. So that's just a feeling.
So logical, no? And what really hurt us in this regard is the Biden regime and how they help fund the Iranian nuclear program and help that regime survive. I assume those among us are the isolationists who call anybody who calls out Iran a warmonger. I guess they supported the Biden administration's position on Iran. I guess they supported the Obama administration's position on Iran. So now Donald Trump's view and mine are identical. So is he a warmonger? Is he trying to drag us into a war? I'm just curious about this. Yet people run around and say they're Trump supporters, and yet they're not. Their foreign policy views are not his foreign policy views. Again, he's prudential, not ideological, and that's the way you need to be when it comes to foreign policy. And so I would ask these folks, they know who they are, I know who they are. Is Donald Trump a warmonger too? You think he's being forced into this position? Does somebody force Donald Trump into a position? So now they're going to attack his character and his intelligence? I'm quite serious. These people aren't Trump supporters. They're sometimes Trump supporters, but they're not really. They don't support Trump's foreign policy. They support George Soros' foreign policy. They support Charles Koch's foreign policy. They don't support Donald Trump's foreign policy. Donald Trump's foreign policy is not as they say. Peace through strength. That's Reagan's foreign policy and Trump's foreign policy. Trump has done more to build up NATO. You have these idiots. Oh, let's pull out of NATO. Have they even been to Europe? Have they even seen where these battles were fought? Do they even know what happened in Europe in World War II? Do they know how many of our men died, bled to death, shot to pieces on European territory? And they would say, just give it up. Just give it up to whom? Oh, to the Europeans. Well, most of it was given up to the Europeans, so we have some bases. Is that a problem? Why is it a problem? Are we going to attack somebody? Are we the imperialists? Are we the colonialists? I wish one of these dumb bastards would come on this show and debate me. I really do. All they have to do is contact us. I'd like to know what it is that they're preaching. Because it's not the end of war. It's called peace through strength. And if they see weakness, you get war. Look at what Trump's doing with China on the tariffs. Should he not be doing it? Should he just back off? Is he going to provoke war with the communist Chinese? Is that what he's doing? When Donald Trump warns the Iranians over and over and over again that you better cut a deal that is verifiable, much like Libya, or we're going to hit you. Is he provoking war, or is he just stating the facts? No, he's not a warmonger. He's not a neocon. He's none of those things. He's trying to protect the United States. He's trying to protect you. These morons, they go around, slick talkers, who bring on the most contemptible guests and go on as if Iran is our fault. As if Iran getting a nuclear missile is no big deal. As if us stopping Iran is the act of a warmonger president, I guess. That's ridiculous. Now I'm going to play this one more time because it's important. Let's key it up. Cut 25, Mr. Producer. I'm going to play it one more time so it's clear he's saying it. I'm not saying it. Go.
Do you want something definitive this weekend, or do you see this as the start of a process?
It's a start.
Do you have a timeline?
We have a little time, but we don't have much time.
Who is starting the
Because we're not going to let them have a nuclear weapon.
Is it awkward to be there, Mr. President?
And we're going to let them thrive. I want them to thrive. I want Iran to be great. The only thing they can't have is a nuclear weapon. They understand that. You know, the people are so incredible in Iran, and they're so smart. They're very smart people. But you know, they're in a rough situation, rough regime. But they understand, and the leaders understand. And I'm not asking for much. I don't. They can't have a nuclear weapon, and I've said that. And I was a little bit surprised because when the election was rigged, I figured they'd get the weapon because with me they were broke. They were broke. They had no money because of the sanctions. Nobody could buy oil. We did that to Venezuela just recently, and we'll do it to other countries if we have to. I want to see Russia and Ukraine make a deal. They got to make a deal. When schools get blown up and bad things happen, like I'm hearing about, it's no good. I hope we're going to make a deal with Russia and Ukraine. But with Iran, if it requires military, we're going to have military. Israel will obviously be very much involved in that. He'll be the leader of that. But nobody leads us. We do what we want to do.
Run out on the talks. When would the talks need to conclude before you might do military?
I can't really be specific, but you know, when you start talks, you know if they're going along well or not. And I would say the conclusion would be when I think they're not going along well. So that's just a feeling.
So will the tough guys out there, who talk about warmongers and neocons. Are they going to attack the president now? He's the commander-in-chief. Is that what they're going to do? Are they going to attack Donald Trump? Are they going to call him a warmonger? Why not? You heard what he said. I played it twice. I almost never play anything twice. You heard what he said. Are they going to call him a warmonger? We will defend Donald Trump here. We will defend Donald Trump here because he's right about protecting the American people against Iran and any nuclear weapons. He's 100% correct. And as I've been saying, and I said as recently as last evening, Israel will take the brunt of any backlash from Iran. We won't. Israel will. And Israel will be doing us a great favor, along, of course, with our heroes, our military, in preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. This is to protect our generation, your children, and your grandchildren, and future generations. Sometimes you got to step up as a country. You've got to protect our country. You've got to protect future generations. I want you to think about a world in which your children and grandchildren, who you love with all your heart, are in constant fear of having nuclear missiles fired into this country by an Islamo-Nazi regime in Iran. And who knows who will lead that country next? Who knows if they'll not knock off one and some additional terrorists will take over that? Who knows? It's not a stable regime. It's a regime that's in control through torture and rape and the point of a gun. And the point of a gun. The president is correct. So all those isolationists out there, I want you to go on social media and I want you to post, the president is correct about what he said about Iran. Or say, the president is not correct about what he said about Iran. At least have the guts to expose yourselves. But they don't. They don't. They're so off on this, it's not even funny. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Don't get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless that comes with a lot of fine print, like requiring you to sign up for 4 lines plus activation fees, plus. And the end of the day, you've paid for that free phone 3 times over. Pure Talk is my sponsor, my wireless company. They have a much better offer. With a qualifying plan of just $35 a month, you can get a brand new Samsung Galaxy A26 for free. Now, this phone is virtually indestructible. Gorilla Glass captures beautiful wide-angle photos with next-generation camera lenses. All you need to do is switch to Pure Talk. For just $35 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, more than you'll ever need, with mobile hotspot, all on one of America's most dependable 5G networks. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plan when you switch to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans. And it really is stomach-turning to watch some of these journalists go out there and pretend that they're admonishing other journalists, when those journalists writing those books knew damn well what was taking place, too. I just posted a show I did over a year ago on Fox, where I called this out, where I went deeply into it, where I challenged the fact that Biden's wife was not stepping up. I went into the 7 stages of dementia. I went into all that. And you might say, Mark, that's no big deal. The problem is nobody was doing it. People were mocking him and making fun of them, but nobody was really, challenging this. And it was before the debate. And over at the Free Beacon, Andrew Stiles writes, mainstream journalists spent the last 4 years speaking truth to power, quote unquote, by helping Democrats lie to the American people about the extent of Biden's cognitive decline. The truth can finally be told now that the election's over, you see. In the first of several books about the Democrat Party's scandalous cover-up, Fight, Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House by Jonathan Allen and Arnie Parnes, Amy Parnes, but why would it matter? Came out earlier this month. Now, don't buy the book. Don't buy the book. They're putting excerpts out. We'll deal with the excerpts. Don't buy the book. These people don't deserve to get rich off this. Excerpts from the upcoming titles such as Uncharted, How Trump Beat Biden, Harris, and the Odds in the Wildest Campaign in History by Chris Whipple. Whipple. Have leaked to the press. They haven't leaked to the press. They were given to the press in an effort to juice sales. Exactly. The revelations contained in these works of post-election journalism reveal the alarming disparity between what leading Democratic politicians and White House aides felt privately about Biden's cognitive health, very concerned, and their public comments defending the president from criticism. Ron Klain. This guy was Biden's right-hand man for decades. Got rich off of it. After serving as White House chief of staff from 2021 to 2023, Klain returned in 2024 to help Biden prepare for the now infamous CNN debate. He was startled by the president's condition during their first meeting, Whipple writes in Uncharted. He'd never seen him so exhausted and out of it. Biden was unaware of what was happening in his own campaign. Halfway through the session, the president excused himself and went off to sit by the pool. Klain was struck by how out of touch with American politics Biden was, and after watching the president appear fatigued, befuddled, and disengaged during the limited prep session, he feared the debate with Trump would be a nationally televised disaster. So what did he do about it? Nothing. He offered a remarkably different account several days after the debate in July 2020. That's why you can't trust these politicians. That's why you can't trust the American media. As the president said, he had a bad night. His practices were better. This is what Klain said after. And he was tired from all the back and forth travel around the world and was suffering from a cold. So he just lied to us. Just lied. And then he adds, but the president is absolutely sharp, fit, on top of his game. People can see that for themselves. You don't have to take my word for it. This guy, Jamal Simmons, who was the communications director 2023. Big mouth, always on CNN. While serving as Kamala Harris's communications director in 2023, Simmons developed an entire messaging plan to prepare for the possibility that Biden could die in office. He compiled a spreadsheet of federal judges and their place of residence that Simmons carried with him while traveling with Harris. The goal was to be able to get Harris sworn in as president as quickly as possible in the event of Biden's demise. Quote, anything can happen to any president, he thought, but the likelihood of Biden dying is greater, Allen and Parnes explained in Fight. Don't buy these books. Simmons, who left the vice president's office later that year for a commentator gig at CNN. So CNN, MSNBC, all these left-wing media sites, all of them, they still employ these liars. They still employ them. Remember, they accused Republicans of promoting fake videos. Simmons did. And other forms of misinformation about the president's health. The president of the United States, his body moves a little slower, but his mind is just as quick as ever. So these videos of Biden wandering around like a dementia patient are cheap fakes. What the White House and Biden people call them, I think we all need to be a little careful about what it is that we put out there. What a liar. What a disgusting liar. Barack Obama was another one. He was shocked but not surprised when Biden bragged about finally beating Medicare on the debate stage, according to Allen and Parnes. Obama knew from experience how the job aged a man. You could see the effects when he watched Biden on television in their rare joint appearances. One of these appearances in a Hollywood fundraiser, he was stunned and he subtly guided Biden toward his own exit. We'll be right back. Don't get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless that comes with a lot of fine print, like requiring you to sign up for 4 lines plus activation fees, plus. And the end of the day, you've paid for that free phone 3 times over. Pure Talk is my sponsor, my wireless company. They have a much better offer. With a qualifying plan of just $35 a month, you can get a brand new Samsung Galaxy A26 for free. Now, this phone is virtually indestructible. Gorilla Glass captures beautiful wide-angle photos with next-generation camera lenses. All you need to do is switch to Pure Talk. For just $35 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, more than you'll ever need, with mobile hotspot, all on one of America's most dependable 5G networks. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plan when you switch to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans. Shout out to Mike Huckabee, the new ambassador from the United States to the State of Israel. It's been a long wait. We're very proud of Mike Huckabee. My stepson David will be his senior staffer and assistant. Couldn't be more proud of him as well. The team with the Secretary of State and so many other wonderful people who are working hard to try and bring security and peace to that part of the world, to the Holy Land. So that's very, very exciting. He will be a fabulous ambassador. We've gotten to know him. I've gotten to know him a little bit, and his wonderful wife. They're just wonderful, wonderful people. New York Post, Carol Markowitz, great columnist. Democrats lit the assassination culture fuse. Now their silence equals violence. They are awfully quiet about it, aren't they, America? You know, I told you before, those attempts on Donald Trump's life, obviously not all, but I think there were Democrats that wish that had been successful. That's my opinion. During his first term, the pink hat protesters hit the streets days after his inauguration. Here's how she starts. How much longer will Democrats accept their supporters escalating calls for violence? The weekend hands-off protests were wholly expected. President Trump riles up the left like few can. And by the way, most of these were very old hippies, yippies, protesters, I'm sure many government employees. During his first term, the pink hat protesters hit the streets days after his inauguration. That his administration made it to April without them was something of a miracle. But Saturday's demonstrations featured an undercurrent of violent rhetoric. In New York, a man dressed up as Luigi of Super Mario Brothers to honor Luigi Mangione, the alleged murderer of healthcare executive Brian Thompson. He carried a sign calling for Trump to be deposed, that is, violently overthrown. In Holland, Michigan, Redmond, Oregon, elsewhere, grinning marchers wore shirts and carried placards emblazoned with the number 8647, pairing the old slang term for the murder. That is, the old slang term for murder with 47 for Trump, 86 the guy. 186 protesters stood right alongside Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison in Minneapolis. Hands off or heads off, read the message on a life-size guillotine paraded about in Denver. Protesters vandalized ICE and DHS vehicles in Washington, D.C., defacing several and puncturing their tires after weeks of viral videos of people keying, grafting, graffitiing, or burning Teslas permeated social media. It's not just property either. Over the weekend, a man was arrested in Portland after he used a laser to attempt to blind a Tesla employee. A leftist protester who blocked traffic at the Hands Off rally in Lafayette, Indiana, headbutted a driver who confronted him, blooding the driver's nose, local police said. On Thursday, conservative students hosting a speaker at the University of California, Davis, were targeted by masked assailants who tore up literature and wrecked tents and tables. The same day in Harlem, an angry leftist punched a pro-life activist in the face. While she was conducting a live interview, she was left bloodied and needed stitches. A new report from the Network Contagion Research Institute, really quite a good institute, let's see here, found that more than half of left-leaning Americans say political violence is acceptable. More than half, 55% of them, said it's acceptable. Some justification, they also said, for assassinating Trump. Certainly feels like a powder keg, as violence is excused and celebrated online as never before. She said, I saw my first trace of this trend on my Facebook feed soon after November's election, political memes and posts with increasingly savage imagery and language. I didn't follow any of these pages or any accounts similar to them, yet Facebook began repeatedly showing me far-left commentary that veered into violent fantasy. One of these was a Photoshop of Melania Trump cozying up to Mangione, murmuring, "I was wondering if you could do me a little favor." I'll tell you, this is so completely out of control. Fantasizing about killing Trump just after 2 attempts were made on his life is perfectly acceptable on the platform that once banned people for questioning whether wearing masks were effective against COVID. Another, guillotines for a better America, revels in this imagery. One recent post, picturing cartoon children beating a piñata, was captioned, "Instead of fruitlessly waiting for wealth to trickle down, beat the rich with blunt instruments until the gold flows." I told you they're Marxist Islamists. That's what I told you, and that's what they are. She said, "I've been fed multiple versions of a purported still from The Symptoms showing a blood-covered Trump in a casket with the date April 12, 2025. It's fake, but disturbingly popular. This content is served to me regularly. This is allegedly humor. The hysterical online aggression is beginning to spill off the internet into the real world. Feels dangerous, much like the run-up to the mostly peaceful quote-unquote riots of 2020 that left 25 people dead. We watched cities burn then as Democrats and their media friends tried to excuse away the horror. But now Democratic politicians have gotten very quiet. For months, they've been agitating their base. We are at war, Representative LaMonica McIver, Democrat New Jersey, shouted in February. She denounced what she called Trump's hostile takeover of the government he was elected to lead. We have to fight in the streets, said Chris Van Hollen, Democrat, Maryland, Islamist. Now the fuse is lit, and the elected firebrands have nothing to say. Voters chose Trump very recently and very specifically to shake up Washington. It's okay to protest, to loudly oppose the changes Trump was elected to make. That's part of America's political legacy. But assassination culture, that's what it is. Assassination culture is the lead author of the NCRI report calls the new spike in violent rhetoric is not. Democrats don't get a pass on it this time. They set this ball rolling. They own it. Their silence now is encouragement. They need to be the ones to stop it. Time to take responsibility and lower the temperature. They're not going to do that. What people don't understand is this Democrat Party, these Democrats are not reformable. They've created these scenarios. They believe in this stuff. When they keep saying, and they still do, that Trump is a dictator, that Trump is Hitler, he's a despot, he's destroying the country, those are signals that they're sending out to the wild-eyed fanatics among them. And they're doing it every single day. Raskin's doing it. Sanders is doing it. Jeffries is doing it. Schumer's doing it. They're leading Marxists. Their leading party leaders are doing it. And they're doing it constantly. The networks are bringing on guests, cable and other networks, who say these things, who promote this sort of stuff. They're not one-offs. It is constant. It's a campaign. It's a propaganda effort. That's what it is. It's really quite, it is horrendous. You have a man here, if you think about Trump, is there anybody who's been through more than he has who's run for president of the United States? I certainly can't think of anybody, not even close. This is Saul Alinsky. This is Rules for Radicals. Times 1,000. These are the Marxists and the Islamists. This is what they do. And they are violent. They're violent. Just as they accuse capitalists of being violent, just as they accuse the Israelis of being violent, it is they. They'll keep talking about January 6th. They never talk about the summer of 2020. Never. They never talk about the violence being done now against Tesla because of Elon Musk. They never talk about it. Or what would have been an attempted assassination against Brett Kavanaugh. That didn't stop them from talking about Kavanaugh, Thomas, Gorsuch, Alito, the way that they talk about them, the way that Schumer specifically talked about two of them. The Democrat Party's always been a violent party. It's the party that defended slavery. It's the party that defended lynching. 1940, a bipartisan bill hits Franklin Roosevelt's desk. A federal crime. It makes lynching a federal crime. He wouldn't sign it. His first appointee to the Supreme Court was the lawyer for the Klan in Alabama. In Alabama. He'd been a senator, a big supporter, but he was what he was. He never lifted a finger for black people. When FDR had the Olympic team, 1936, who had gone to Berlin, to the White House, he didn't invite Jesse Owens. He wasn't on the list. And Jesse Owens wrote about that and was very upset about it. They asked Jesse Owens, this is in my book, The Democrat Party Hates America. How did Hitler treat you? He said, I never spoke to Hitler. But Roosevelt didn't invite me to the White House. That's how he treated me. Joe Louis, the great boxer. He didn't vote for FDR. Because he said he wouldn't sign the anti-lynching bill. Which he didn't. The Democrat Party was the party behind slavery. It was the party behind segregation. The Republican Party was created as an abolitionist party to fight slavery, and that's exactly what it did. They did. Lincoln did. They opposed segregation and separate but equal. But the Democrats pushed it, and so did their judges, by the way. The progressive Democrats, you say, they're different now. Woodrow Wilson was a so-called progressive Democrat. He was a grotesque racist who resegregated the military, which had been desegregated by Theodore Roosevelt and Taft. In fact, he required that if you wanted a federal job, you had to send in a photo with your resume. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? So they would know who's black and who's not. And the man who was enforcing this racism was his postmaster general, who had access to all the mail. Eugenics, which was supported by the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger. Never heard that, did you, except from me? Was embraced by the Democrat Party, Woodrow Wilson, among others. A big Democrat lawyer who supported eugenics wrote a big book on it. And Hitler was so taken by the book, it was the first book translated into German. The first English book translated into German. Eugenics. By a big-time Democrat lawyer. Eugenics, which was supported by Woodrow Wilson in the most grotesque language that he used in its defense. It was aimed at poor people, handicapped people, mentally ill people, and quote-unquote Negroes. Did you know that? Look at our cities. Who runs our cities? I don't mean what race. The left, the Democrats. Look at the schools. They oppose school choice. They oppose the cops. So if you live in one of these communities, they're dangerous. Your kids aren't getting a proper education. And yet the Republicans don't control these cities. The Democrats do. Amazing, isn't it? And now this assassination cult that they're promoting, and that's exactly what it is. It's sickening. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Don't get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless that comes with a lot of fine print, like requiring you to sign up for 4 lines plus activation fees, plus. And the end of the day, you've paid for that free phone 3 times over. Pure Talk is my sponsor, my wireless company. They have a much better offer. With a qualifying plan of just $35 a month, you can get a brand new Samsung Galaxy A26 for free. Now, this phone is virtually indestructible. Gorilla Glass captures beautiful wide-angle photos with next-generation camera lenses. All you need to do is switch to Pure Talk. For just $35 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, more than you'll ever need, with mobile hotspot, all on one of America's most dependable 5G networks. Go to puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch. Again, that's puretalk.com/LEVIN to claim your free Samsung Galaxy with qualifying plan when you switch to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans. Adam Schiff, you remember him, don't you? Every now and then he slides out from under a greasy rock. He wants a investigation of insider trading because of the tariff pause. I mean, we've gone from truly great men and women, leaders, to lowlifes like this punk. Like this guy. He was deaf, dumb, and blind to everything Biden, everything Hunter Biden. Isn't it amazing? But now, there's nothing here, but he wants an investigation anyway. That's the problem. If these guys take control. That's the problem. And that is serious. Here's what I was talking about Schiff. Senator Adam Schiff called on Congress to investigate whether Donald Trump engaged in insider trading or market manipulation when he abruptly paused a sweeping set of tariffs, a move that sent stock prices skyrocketing. So this is Time magazine that doesn't even have a magazine anymore. By Nick Popley. Nick Popley. Who's Nick Popley? I don't know. I'm going to do my best to find out, said Schiff. So he creates a non-issue, then says he's going to investigate it as best he can because Congress won't. It's called a pseudo-event. It's called propaganda. He's called a demagogue. The Power Hour is next. Don't miss it. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. This is really quite interesting. The Free Beacon, one of the great sites, how a lawsuit from October 7 victims, including the Bibas family uncle, could cripple Al Jazeera. Now, Al Jazeera is Qatar's state-run media operation that has been banned in places like Saudi Arabia. It is a terrorist-supporting newspaper. You might recall Al Gore had an interest in it one time ago and sold his interest and became filthy wealthy as a result and bloated up by about 80 pounds because, you know, he could eat all the tasty cakes he wanted to. Anyway, Adam Credo here. Al Jazeera has long courted controversy for platforming terrorists across the Middle East, where it is banned from operating in Israel and some Arab countries for promoting extremist ideologies. Again, this is Qatar. But the Qatar-funded network's support for Hamas terrorists isn't just confined to the region, according to a new lawsuit from October 7 victims, which alleges for the first time that Al Jazeera's American arm directly supports the terror group's operations. Qatar should be, you know, we shouldn't be embracing it. American victims of Hamas's October 7 terror spree sued Al Jazeera and its American affiliate, Al Jazeera International, a limited liability company registered in Delaware, in February. Among the plaintiffs is Maurice Shader, whose niece, Cherie Bibas, was kidnapped and killed. You might remember this, along with her 2 small children, Ariel and Kafir, One of the sickest things you've ever heard of, I'm sure. The victims are petitioning the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia to hold Al Jazeera's American enterprise liable for, quote, providing substantial assistance to Hamas and its militant ally, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the PIJ, both of which are U.S.-designated terror outfits. The suit identifies at least a half dozen Al Jazeera employees who double as Hamas and PIJ operatives and accuses the outlet of conspiring with these terror groups from the lead-up to the October 7 attack until now. While Al Jazeera is headquartered in Doha, Qatar, where senior Hamas members lived in luxury, it operates 70 bureaus worldwide, including one in Washington, D.C. Its hub in the nation's capital hosts more than 100 staffers, many of whom are credentialed to cover Congress. The outlet's presence on Capitol Hill has long driven concerns among Republican lawmakers who've unsuccessfully tried for years to revoke its privilege status and force it to register as a foreign agent. Since Hamas is not designated as a terrorist organization in Qatar, the October 7 victims are turning to the American court system, where they can seek financial penalties against Al Jazeera under the Anti-Terrorism Act. And by naming Al Jazeera International as a defendant in the case, they're hoping to prove that the network's Washington, D.C. branch knowingly provided material support to Hamas and PIJ. There are far too many coincidences and connections between the Hamas terrorists who attacked innocent Israelis and the reporters from Al Jazeera who mysteriously were among the first to breach into the Jewish state from Gaza and accompany the murderers as they killed, maimed, and raped innocent Jews. Nitzana Nashir Leitner, the lawyer handling the case, told the Washington Free Beacon, "We intend to prove that Al Jazeera is the communication arm of the Gaza terror groups." The suit points to evidence that Al Jazeera channels accessible within D.C. promote terrorism. The network's Upfront program, for instance, has repeatedly aired terrorist-related content via Al Jazeera English and other channels owned by the company, which was really owned by Qatar. Let's see here. Excuse me. Let's see here. Upfront, a show produced and broadcast in Washington, D.C., aren't we lucky, has featured interviews with designated terrorists, including Osama Hamdan, a Hamas leader who is believed to have been killed by Israel in September 2024. Interviewees routinely receive payment from Al Jazeera, including from its D.C. office, the lawsuit alleges. Now, through these broadcasts, the complaint states Al Jazeera further incited violence and impacted viewers nationwide, establishing a direct connection between the outlet's radical overseas activity and in America. And you know what? This is just, it's big, but it's just one of an infinite number of efforts by Qatar to influence this country, ours. Omar is one of 7 Al Jazeera reporters. Now, who's Omar? Additional evidence presented in the lawsuit seeks to establish that Al Jazeera had prior operational insight into the October 7 attacks. While these plans were closely guarded by Hamas, with only 5 leaders fully briefed on the operation, Al Jazeera reporter Ismail Abu Ammar began broadcasting footage live less than 10 minutes after the attack began. Omar is one of 7 Al Jazeera reporters identified in the lawsuit as Hamas operatives. Israel's also accused him of serving as a Hamas training company commander in the terrorist group's East Khan Yunis battalion. Omar's alleged ties to Hamas could explain why he began sharing coverage of the attacks as early as 6:31 a.m., 9 minutes after it began. 9 minutes, says the lawsuits. Additional footage from the day shows Omar entering Israel on October 7 and riding towards Kibbutz Nir Oz with multiple armed Hamas men, according to evidence. Qatar is up to its headscarves in October 7th. They've been allowed to play us as fools. They've been allowed to play both sides. There are moderators, mediators when it comes to the Israeli hostages That's outrageous. People are praising them. Praising them? It's the biggest funder of terrorism in the world, even bigger than Iran. Additional Al Jazeera employees named as terrorist operatives include Yabba Dabba Doo. How the hell am I supposed to pronounce all these names? They're all consonants or they're all vowels? Excuse me. Now, Washa was the last name of the multiple names, was found to be a prominent commander. And it goes on and on and on. This really sparked my interest. So the author of this piece is a friend of the program, a friend of mine, Adam Credo, from the Free Beacon, and he'll be on in just a few minutes. Now, the Free Beacon is an outstanding site. I do notice they're not obsessed with Scott Jennings on CNN. Have you noticed these sites, Mr. Producer? It's Scott Jennings every day? What's that all about? The guy was a Bush guy. Now, he's doing a good job on CNN. I have nothing against Scott Jennings. I don't even know him. But he was a Bush guy. I think he was a McConnell guy. But that's all right. Let's get clicks. I'm just guessing. I don't know. The more, the merrier. You know what? It's never too late. That should be my attitude. That should be my attitude. But it's not. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you know voter ID laws are a vestige of slavery? Did you know that? Yes. Let's go to that. Sonny Houston on The View. Can somebody please tell me why The View is still on air and why Sonny Houston is still on the air? Somebody explain that to me. Let's get 22 ready, Mr. Producer. Let's go with that. Go.
People that don't have cars, don't have driver's licenses. So it's sort of a vestige of, I think, post-slavery laws where black people had to prove their right to vote, and oftentimes
voter ID laws are about black people. This woman is sick. I mean, really sick. She shouldn't be on television. She should be on something. Voter ID laws have nothing to do with any specific race whatsoever. And she's a vestige of post-slavery laws? How sick is this? Go ahead.
Test, or they didn't have the appropriate ID. It also affects women that are married. Maybe your passport reflects something that's different.
Let me tell you exactly what this does and doesn't do, because Landmark Legal Foundation has litigated this over the years. They find almost no examples where voter ID laws prevent legitimate voters from voting. So they come up with these fanciful arguments that it reminds one of the post-slavery period, that it affects women in particular because, they're married and have the husband's name. These are lies. And I would urge her, give us all the examples. Show us. Show us. I mean, everything is racist. You know who's racist? She's racist. By bringing up things of this sort. She is. Really terrible. Absolutely terrible. Let's continue with the clip, please. Go ahead.
Certificate or on your driver's license. So really the bottom line is voter suppression. And I agree with him 100%. It's a brilliant...
Voter suppression by asking people to show if they should be voting? It is voter suppression if they're not supposed to be voting. So she's a real head case. I dare say if you go into black communities or Hispanic communities or any other community and you ask them whether you think people should prove that they're American citizens before they should be able to vote, the overwhelming answer would be yes, that they should. Because that's been the view of the American people on a very significant level for a very, very long time. All right, let's continue. Go ahead.
ID laws allows more people to vote, and most democracies do it that way. We're the only ones that really don't do it that way.
Mm-hmm. You're a liar about that, too. Most democracies do have identification requirements. So, Mr. Producer, you're sure the guest is ready? All right. Adam Credo, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I feel like, it's hit and miss, which is a little nerve-wracking and frustrating, but it's good to have you. All right. Tell us about the story that you wrote, that you uncovered here about Al Jazeera. First, tell us about Al Jazeera.
Sure, you got it, and thanks for having me. I always appreciate it. So I think a lot of people are familiar with Al Jazeera. They're based in Doha, Qatar. Qatar, as you most certainly know.
I refuse to call it Qatar. It's been Qatar my whole life, and it stays Qatar,
Okay.
but you can call it Qatar. Go ahead.
Okay. So it's owned and operated by the royal family in Doha, and they have been broadcasting not just across the Middle East, but in America and elsewhere. I believe they operate 70 bureaus worldwide, and they're very well known for interviewing terrorists, interviewing Hamas, promoting their propaganda, and also, as you know, that they're being funded out of Doha. Doha's government provided support to Hamas's senior leadership, and we're relying on them to mediate this hostage deal with Israel. But putting that aside for a moment, I think that it's well been proven over the years that Al Jazeera is one of the top promoters of terrorist propaganda. That's why Israel banned them last year. They're also banned, mind you, in several Arab countries for promoting extremist rhetoric. So that's how we get to this lawsuit. A group of October 7th victims and their families are not only suing Al Jazeera, but Al Jazeera International. And that's what makes this case particularly unique. Al Jazeera International is registered in Delaware. It's an American limited liability company. So for the first time, this case is trying to prove that Al Jazeera's American branch also provides material support to terror groups like Hamas, and that's what they're setting out to prove here.
Okay, so has there been discovery? This is from public information. The lawsuit is based on what?
Correct. It's mostly based on open source information as well as Israeli intelligence. You may remember last year and for several months following, Israel, when it was conducting its operations in the Gaza Strip, they were finding the remains of computers, cell phones, other information. And what they found during the course of this is that many of the same Hamas operatives doubled as Al Jazeera reporters, that these people were in the field in Gaza and were also tied to things like Hamas training camps, operating various battalions. 2 Al Jazeera reporters were killed last year in an Israeli airstrike for reportedly operating a drone that was targeting IDF forces. So the lawsuit names at least a half a dozen reporters who they cite evidence from the Israelis and otherwise that have direct links to Hamas. And there are very likely more that could come out as Israel uncovers more evidence, but those for now are the initial ones named in the suit, and it's bolstered by these findings that Israel has uncovered over the months and year plus in Gaza.
But Al Jazeera is Qatar, is it not? I mean, the government of Qatar controls it. Its editorial content, its so-called news content, it controls it. Saudi Arabia wants nothing to do with it. It banned it. And you mentioned there's other Arab countries as well.
Yeah, Egypt
as well.
Egypt
as well. So it's known to be what it is. And yet this Qatar is ubiquitous in the United States. Republicans, Democrats, Congress, the administration, whatever it is. They spend a fortune trying to overturn our country. They spend a fortune on the Hitler Youth in our colleges and universities. They spend a fortune on law firms, on lobbying. They spend a fortune on professional athletics. So people look at, how bad can they be? Am I right about that?
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Qatar spends a substantial amount of money peddling influence, not just in Washington, D.C. politically, but like you mentioned, influencing not only higher education, colleges and universities, having partnerships with them and donating gifts to them, but also in public schools. This is K through 12th grade programming. They operate various language programs that for a lot of years have come under the microscope for promoting an anti-Israel narrative, for promoting an anti-Semitic narrative that seeks to erase the Jewish people and the state of Israel. So it's all one and the same, and Qatar is another, or Al Jazeera rather, is another arm of that effort to mainstream this propaganda. And you can see it just by turning on the television network. A lot of their slickly produced programs are in English and accessible, but look at who they're interviewing. In many cases, they're Hamas members. In many cases, they're tied to Palestinian Islamic Jihad and other terror groups group that works with Hamas in Gaza. This is who they're mainstreaming and letting get their message out internationally.
When we come back, Adam, I'd like to hold you over.
Of course.
We had this guy, the senator from Kansas. His name is Marshall, Senator Marshall. And he was an embarrassment. He was a humiliation when he went after this director of this anti-Semitism organization. And all he would do is come to the defense of Qatar. He never mentioned all their terrorist activities and ties. I want to pursue that with you when we return. We'll be right back.
You've heard of Lady Liberty? Well, this is Mr. Liberty, the Mark Levin Show. Call him now at 877-381-3811.
Welcome back, America. We're here with Adam Credo of the Great Free Beacon site. He's a great reporter. So, Adam, the Senator Marshall, don't you think that was a bizarre hearing in which he didn't mention a single thing about Qatar's ties to terrorism in the United States or elsewhere? And it kind of berated the gentleman who was there to talk about anti-Semitism.
Yeah, it's very fascinating to me that the country is continuously treated with a privileged status. It's tapped to mediate talks, and this spans administrations, right? Despite the political party, the Qataris are always front and center and prominent. They host a major American military base there, yet at the same time, they're running things like Al Jazeera. They're funding efforts in America that critics say promote anti-Israel and anti-Semitic agendas, as well as the fact that they maintain very good relationships with Iran, the mullah regime over there. I'm sure you remember several years ago when there was a widespread boycott among Arab nations in the Middle East, boycotting Qatar over these ties. The Iranians are wreaking havoc, not just on the Israelis and American positions in the Middle East, but also Arab countries, primarily Saudi Arabia. So it continues to be fascinating to me that across administrations, the State Department, the American government kind of refuses to acknowledge that very big elephant in the room, and that is the terrorism financing that emanates from Doha, the hosting of senior Hamas leadership, the promotion of anti-Israel agenda, and by the way, an anti-American agenda on networks like Al Jazeera. I feel like that is not mentioned nearly enough when I'm speaking to lawmakers and most certainly the State Department.
It's really quite shocking because the evidence is out there. You guys have written about it. There are reports out there. They follow as much money as they can. We know who's doing what. They actually spend more money on terrorism than Iran. I mean, it's close number 2. And, of course, they have been the biggest financial backer of Hamas and all these efforts in the United States to the tune of billions and billions of dollars. And I think at some point this is going to blow up in terms of the American public really being pretty disgusted by this. This tiny little country, which is really a fake country, was created out of nothing. They happen to be on this massive amount of oil, and they throw their tons of money around. I mean, they spend money on all kinds of stuff that Americans would be shocked to know in order to buy influence. And the fact is they have, haven't they?
Most certainly. It's truly waging outsized influence for the size of the nation and the role that it plays in the Middle East. And you're exactly right that they do this through money. There are any number of various nonprofits and other entities that ultimately end up, you find, being bankrolled by the government in Doha directly that are doing their best to ensure that the Qataris have access, the Qataris have influence, and it's certainly paid off. And I think you make a very good point about public outrage, the public realizing who's behind a lot of this stuff, because it's certainly not going to come from the government itself. Look, I've been covering the State Department and foreign affairs and diplomacy for over 15 years now, and it's always been one of those issues to me that if you know, and look, they're not really hiding what they're up to. It's very easy to read about it and look into it. it's not going to come from the government. The public pressure needs to come from the outside to convince an administration to either use sanctions authorities or whatever diplomatic levers they can pull to change that government's behavior.
Do you think Congress will ever look into this? I mean, they've kind of flirted with it, but they've never really dug in, have they?
Yeah, they have, and you're right, it's never really gone anywhere. Look, certainly there have been efforts on the Al Jazeera side of things. Congress instructed them to register as a foreign agent. They refused to do that. They're still credentialed for Capitol Hill. They have press passes and about 100 staffers in their D.C. office operating as, according to Congress, credentialed reporters, which is very fascinating. So there was appetite there for that effort. But no, I don't think you've seen, and again, this is a failure on both sides of the aisle, really efforts to try and alter the Qatari behavior through legislation or sanctions or other measures that you really could, with the power of the U.S. government, use to bring them more into line with our interests.
But couldn't even state attorneys general look into this? I think they could, particularly as it applies to schools within their states.
Yeah, and you have seen efforts. I will note when it comes to the funding for public school initiatives, I've covered this quite a bit and thoroughly in these educational materials. I think once local and state governments are aware of this, who's funding it, who's behind it, and why they're funding it. You see efforts to try to remove this stuff, but it's done in, one, a very nebulous fashion, and two, it's done in a way where they say, well, it's just language programs or promoting language, but you actually get a look at the materials and you dig into it, and it's, well, no, the maps don't acknowledge Israel. The materials paint a portrait of Israel that is just not accurate or based in reality. So once people are aware, I think the view of this changes. But from a federal level, I've not seen many efforts that I can really say are substantial or meaningful.
Do you think this will go on and just keep going on? Do you think there's a point at which this is going to become a very serious problem? I'm talking about with the public.
Yeah, look, I think as long as the money's available, they're certainly going to be waging that influence politically. For the public, yeah, I think that as people become more aware of the role that they've played, I think October 7th helped a lot with raising awareness. People were saying all of a sudden, wait, Hamas's senior leadership lives in luxury with millions and millions of dollars in high-scale apartment buildings in Doha, that they're protected by the government, that Qatar for years has been identified as a primary place for terrorism financing. Once those connections start to be made by the American public, there might actually be a push by the people in Congress who represent them to take their interests and change what's in the lay of the land for decades now.
But Adam, I don't see the media on a consistent or a persistent level. I mean, you guys and a few others, but I'm talking about, the big boys, quote unquote. I don't really see them having a great interest in this right now. Do you?
No, I don't think it's ever been a major issue for the mainstream media, and you can look at that in small and big ways. One is how you write about it. When you mention Doha or the Qataris, and do you say that it's long been a source of concern with terrorism financing? Do you say that they support financially and have housed and treated with dignity and respect very much Hamas's leadership? No, you don't always see that written into news articles, I think, in a way that paints a picture for the reader to give them that context. And I just don't see that appetite, whether it's carelessness or whether it's running interference. I think the end result is the same, that the reader is left without pivotal information about a situation that they're trying to follow.
Keep doing your great job. You're doing a fantastic job. I really appreciate you sending me your information as well. The other folks there at the Free Beacon, too. It's a great site. And God bless you. You're a great patriot, my friend. You take care of yourself.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you greatly. It's always nice to talk to you.
It's Adam Credo. He's great. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Jerry in Williams, Iowa, the great KXEL. Jerry, go right ahead, please.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about Al Jazeera. I'm sick of seeing them on my television, one of the stations. And
on your cable, right?
We can get rid of... by the way, I got to say I love Life, Liberty, and Levin. But
Thank you.
We can get rid of Tren de Aragua. And we can ship them, those miscreants, drop them off from wherever they came. Why can't we also get rid of Al Jazeera?
Because they don't want to. Because Qatar has bought off a lot of people, a lot of companies, and that's why we can get rid of them. They don't want to get rid of them. Isn't that sick?
Thank you for taking my call, because they disgust me. I don't like to see their news items. I don't like their perspective. This other miscreant, Khalid, or whatever his name, we're sending him. Hopefully, we're going to send him back to his godforsaken country. I think the whole lot of them, they don't like our country. I'm just really all for thinking about some creative American way to get their nasty television and news information channel off of our soil. And
we should be able to. There's a cable network is not required to cover these guys, to carry these guys. They're not. But they do. And I'm with you 100%. It's outrageous that we allow a terrorist country to have its propaganda operation in our country on our cable channels. It's just pathetic. Jerry, God bless you, brother. You're really, really good. I appreciate it. Let's see. Let's go to Joe, Grapevine, Texas, the great WBAP. Hey, Ron, that's your country, baby. WBAP, go right ahead. Oops. Oh, jeez. All right, he hung up. All right, Joe, you lost your opportunity to become famous or infamous. Ed, Charlotte, North Carolina, the great WBT. Talk about a powerhouse. That's a powerhouse station. Ed, how are you?
Yeah, Mark, after running across your show many years ago, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your incredible expertise of teaching me far more than I could have ever gotten on my own about.
Aren't you nice?
About the complexity of our simplistic Constitution. I want to tell you on tariffs, and I have one important question I want to ask you that's your other area of expertise, one of many. But on tariffs, I know a lot about some of this, and people, you're right. It's not as people think. For example, these countries that dictate they can break even or lose money and call dump steel, for example, a high, like you talked about shipbuilding, a high intensive market, and Obama did not do that. I think he probably got some funds, in my opinion, by having Mr. Vice President let China know he will not put the anti-dumping.
Can I just highlight and underscore your excellent point? Because what Ed's talking about here is through government subsidies, they destroy our industries. They price it under the cost, then they dump it into our country. Obviously, people who use the steel or whatever the product is are going to purchase it. I would at the lower price, and so what happens is it's not a free market when it's subsidized by other governments, and then they also put barriers in the way of us selling. So it's nothing like a free market. Go ahead, Ed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly right. And not only that, once they get control, they come back and they can get all the business, including what we would normally have. Plus, sometimes they go on up in price, and so you have inflation. And so people don't realize it's more inflationary if you don't protect yourself on dumping. Mm-hmm. Also, a lot of these companies will take some of the percentage to keep to try to not lose as much of the market. So if it's 10%, they may eat 50-60% of it and give customers more of a discount and take less profit. So that, once again, it's not just taking percentage. It's much more complex. And also...
you should have your own show, man. You're pretty good at this.
Well, I mean, something I had to pick up here. I'm dyslexic, so I can't spell cat if you spot me the C&A, so I can't write books like you do, but I know 1 and 1's 3. I'm good in math, so I know 1 and 1's 3. I stick to my strength. Yeah. But I want to ask you a great question for you.
Yes.
The I'm concerned about. I've been real concerned about the court thing, and I want to know why, if the Republicans why don't they just get together and defund them? And if they won't do that,
I'll tell you why. Right now, they're fighting with each other over the tax cuts, and if we don't get these tax cuts in fast, like immediately, the economy is going to go south. So this is a big problem. Ed, great call. I got to run. The music means I got to dance. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, our brothers and sisters in Ukraine. That's right, I said Ukraine. And our brothers and sisters in Israel. And, of course, you, the American people, the great American people. Thank you. I'm blessed to be here and to have you out there. See you tomorrow.